And welcome to Living on the Wire Week 5, our league's inside look at how teams manage the waiver wire transfers and how they look after their money. And this week we had the biggest in my 5-6 years with the league, biggest waiver transfer I've ever seen. Blew my mind. I put in a bid myself. But we'll get into that shortly when we have a look at our big bid boys. And it should be no surprise to everybody as we were all keeping our eye out, especially after Gregor rattled the cage, on Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is set to be the new RB1 at Seattle after they've lost Rashad Penny. And of course, that's a team that uses the running game well, so you'll see lots of actions. He played well in the role where he had to step up, and provided he looks anything like that for the rest of the season, then somebody's just managed to acquire a new RB1 or at least a high-end RB2 for the rest of the season. So that $100 bid could be a great bargain, but it could be a complete waste of an entire transfer budget when we still have lots of bye weeks to navigate. He wasn't the only one. Luke wasn't the only one who bid $100. Rob also did, but Luke was higher up on the waiver list, so he managed to nab him, and I believe Ross was third with $90. But in total, 13 out of the 16 of us had a bid for this guy, which means there was only a couple of teams that are completely content with their running back room. And for a little bit less money, at only $10, a couple of bids coming in for Alec Pierce. He is the number 2 wide receiver now at the Colts. He's kind of moved into that role and kind of pushed some other people aside, and the Colts offense is improving, and time will tell if that's been smart business for Brian, but could be a handy little player to have on your bench for these bye weeks coming up. But we'll see. The next one up, the third player in a row that Gregor has lost out on, as he was the other bid here for the New England Patriots. But it's Jago's Loons that have managed to roster them. Now, I always try and avoid rostering my own team's defense just purely because if you have a bad week, you end up having a bad week just in real NFL football life as well as in the fantasy league. But after a 21+ point game, it was probably hard to ignore them if you are switching around defenses and looking for the best matchups. What I will say is they're a number 8 defense right now, but that's pretty much based just on that previous week. If you ignore that previous week, they're probably just teenagers somewhere in the teens. So don't expect them to be giving you that every single week. And then the little bitty boys. So a little bit cheaper, a little bit less action. Another player that Gregor tried to go for, he went for Daniel Jones, but Allen has snapped him up as he transforms his quarterback room. But Allen, he's not Jimmy G. I don't think he'll outscore him every week, and I don't think he's going to outscore him this week. But do you know what? If he does, Allen, I'll owe you a Coke. But a pretty safe bid there, not very many dollars spent, and with Gregor also scrambling around looking for a quarterback, you know where to come, gentlemen. You know where to come. Then Stephen picks up the Broncos D. Broncos not having a great season, but the defense has been pretty consistent, and so that should get some points. Can't do much worse than the Pittsburgh Steelers did this week after getting annihilated by the Patriots. So again, if you're scrambling around looking for defenses with good matchups for $1, that could be pretty good business. Now these two people could be on the next slide because no one else bid for them and they didn't cost any money, but it's just easier for me to copy and paste them onto one page. So we've got Christian Watson, who hasn't played too much, hasn't got a lot of snaps, but it is a Green Bay room that is looking for a wide receiver room that is looking for its identity and who to throw to and who to get the ball to as they try and progress into being the monster team they usually are. So we'll see, and dropping Joshua Palmer, it's probably a bit of a like for like, although Joshua Palmer did get some more action earlier in the season. So I wonder if Ross knows something that we don't, and that's why he's gone from there. And then we've got Keith picking up Mason Crosby and dropping Daniel Carson, first victim of the bye weeks, as the Vegas Raiders are not playing this week. I know, because that's taken 2 or 3 of my players out as well. I'm trying my best to hold on to them, but sometimes needs must, and you've got to let them go, especially when it's kickers and defenses. Then we've got our cheapest chips. We've got Wan'Dale Robinson. He's back from injury. The rookie, he's not really played too much. I think he only had a couple of snaps in the opening game. But I know that at the Giants, he was thought of quite highly and regarded quite highly, and especially with the problems that they're having at wide receiver. As soon as they get him up to speed, I'm sure he'll be seeing a lot of the ball, but it'll just be interesting to figure out exactly when that's going to be. Perhaps just holding on to him for later in the season. And Darnell Mooney, despite being really probably the only big wide receiver in that Chicago room's just not been getting any action. Fields just seems to not really be firing off the ball very much in that team and doing a lot of running. A team that's not doing very well in the offense as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I suppose you're just looking to see how the rookie does as the season goes on. Next one up, we've got myself picking up Joshua Kelly. Yeah, he doesn't see much of the ball. He's number 2 back there. When the number 1's fit and healthy, he's not going to play much. But sometimes, he just gets those extra points because he'll get that 3rd down drive and he'll get that touchdown. So fingers crossed. Or if there's an injury, he'll step right into that role and quickly become an RB2 in our league. And then we've got Allen picking up his next quarterback, Justin Fields. He'll be hoping that he can make some points with his legs, because he's not been exactly throwing the ball around very smoothly. And he's not Jimmy G. So Allen, come talk to me. You need a better quarterback. Then we've got the afterthoughts, the people that were picked up very, very quickly when teams realised they'd failed in their bids for other players. Picked up DJ Dallas with Rashad Penny out. He might get some of those plays, so he might get a few more points. He can't really do too much worse than Kenneth Gainwell did for me this past week. Andy Thorburns dropped Rashad Penny for the pre-mentioned injury and scooped up Jalen Warren, hoping that he keeps that uptrend. He's been getting more points each week. He got 7+ points this week, and rumours are that he's expected to play more and more in that Pittsburgh team, so we'll keep a little eye out for that. That could be some sound business there from Andy. And then we've got Telfie going for Kenny Pickett. Hopefully that he's an improvement on Rush while he waits for his other quarterbacks to come back from injury. But again, he's not Jimmy G. Gentlemen, you just got to come looking. He's right there, and for the right offer, I'm happy to let him go. And the also-rans, the kind of usual changes round we have for free just after that waiver goes out. We've got Telfie scooping up the Chicago Bears, second choice defense after losing out in the Patriots. Hopefully for him, they can get him a few more points than the Chargers. We've got Rob dropping Dawson Knox and picking up Cole Kmet. These are 2 guys at the start of the season were probably ranked inside most people's top 16, so should easily have a slot on any of our teams, but they just haven't managed to pull it off this year. Both have been pretty disappointing. I think with the wide receivers getting more and more action at Buffalo, probably safe to say that Cole Kmet's going to improve a bit quicker from the fantasy stats point of view than Dawson Knox. But you never know. The fantasy gods will make fools of us all. And then the last one, Rob's scooping up Mac Jones, probably, with him coming back from injury, hoping that he'll be there to cover bye weeks. But again, gentlemen, I've got a backup quarterback that I scooped up a while ago for a few bucks, just waiting for these bye weeks, waiting for these moments when you needed him. So come talk to me. I need a running back. And then on to our awards. And this week's big spender, no shock, no surprise, Luke Manley, picking up Walker with that $100 bid. Piece of cake. Then Ross, he's still saving up. He's got that 110. He was the only person who could have outbid Luke if he'd wanted to. but then he still would have had a few bucks left if he just put in that 101. He knew that Walker was going to be his, but it's a lot of money to spend and a lot of bye weeks still to cover. And then the next one is for You Tried. Now, Gregor, after the waiver wire cleared, you eventually went out and found the pieces you need, but I've given you the You Tried award for the 4 players that you failed to pick up first time round, and then you had to scramble around looking for what was left. Honourable mention as well to Steve. Big shout out to your Taysom Hill pickup. I did say that I thought he was a touchdown player, so if you managed to get a touchdown or 2 for him, you could get into that sort of 15 points and you'd have a super tight end. I didn't expect him to play quite as much at quarterback, and I didn't expect him to be involved in 4 touchdowns. So he had an absolute monster week, and if I'd picked him up myself, I might have even won my matchup against Mikey. So well done. So a big honourable mention there to Steve. And that has been a whirlwind look at the waiver wires for this morning. Some teams still out there trying to scramble away, trying to figure out how their team's looking. Some teams just scramble around getting ready for these bye weeks coming up. But it's hopefully going to get a lot cheaper out there for teams like myself who have spent some of their money, with a few teams having used up some of their budgets. However, the big danger is Ross. He can still outbid you for any player he wants, and then still just has money to just flick around at you afterwards to mock you. Anyway, gentlemen, may the fantasy gods be kind, except to Greg. Fuck you, Greg.